All right, it is about 2:30 in the morning. Cranberry Lake 50. Nice, windy, 50 to 60 degree day, or morning, or night, whatever you want to call it. Trails look pretty nice from what I can tell. I did get my feet wet about a mile and a half in, which is not really the goal I was going for, but hopefully we got a lot of dry miles ahead that I can dry those puppies out. Did not get a chance to see any aurora lights last night, or the night before actually, which is kind of a bummer, but the sky is pretty clear. It did rain overnight, or earlier in the night at least, but it looks like maybe, I hope I'm not jinxing myself, that I might be able to avoid some rain that's forecast for later this morning. And then it should be a dry day the rest of the way until I get to the beaver ponds. So, we'll see. Until then, a lot of miles to go. Hey raccoons. Hey guys. Enjoy your climb. That is the fourth and fifth raccoon that I've seen within the last 5 minutes. We are probably about 4-ish miles in maybe. It's nice and early. And we're doing pretty good. It's pretty cool seeing the raccoons. Well, it's some kind of intersection here. You guys probably can't see it all. But here we go. All right, it is just almost 6 a.m. About 12 and a half miles in. I'm on the Otter Brook Trail, which is super nice and flat and wide and open. A little bit of branches and things down here and there, but otherwise it's a really nice trail. If it was lighter out, I would definitely be running this section, but there are a couple rocks and roots and muddy spots and some branches and whatnot down, so unfortunately I can't start running yet, even though this would be probably some of the best running terrain I'm going to see today, I would imagine, other than the roads. We got about probably 40 minutes until first light, a little over an hour until sunrise, so we shall see what is in store next. It is 6:40 and I am 15 miles in and we are just getting the first signs, the first light. Trail's still pretty dark though. Managed to stay dry throughout the early morning hours despite chances of rain. There was no rain. It is very nice. Did not make a difference in terms of keeping the feet dry though. Trail's pretty wet in some spots. Mostly dry, but there's definitely some wet spots and muddy spots. One spot my shoe got stuck in the mud and pulled right off. Had to hop around on one foot trying to get it back on. So, almost light out. So looking forward to that. All right, it is nearly sunrise. It is a cloudy sky though, but we have lots of light. And the trails finally illuminated enough to put the headlamp away and enjoy some of these wonderful fall colors. I don't know if you can see it with the sky washed out, but the trail is really beautiful, and hopefully come up to the very first lean-to pretty soon. maybe have a first bite of food for the day, sit down and rest, and then hopefully get some running miles in. Some of this looks pretty runnable. All right, here we go. Pretty little stream. Just crossed 19 miles. I think it was 19. Stopped at that first campsite. I was mistaken. It is not a lean-to. It was a campsite and it was occupied, so I did not stick around. But I did go down to the lake, snap a quick picture. And yeah, I got some running miles in. Just finished a little switchback section. Nice and rocky. Couldn't really run on that, but it was still pretty cool rocks. And yeah, I think the next milestone is going to be Olmsted Pond. And I know there's a lean-to at that one, but we will keep on pushing. All right, so that bridge we just crossed was the bridge over Chair Rock Flow. Kind of makes sense. It was pretty shallow. Looked like there were some rocks you could sit in with a little chair. But we found a nice little open section. Sun is trying to come out from behind the clouds. A little bit of blowdown. But it looks like a beautiful day. A little on the cool side, 40-ish. But feels pretty good when you're moving. Oh man. So, hit a snag. Walking along, hit a trail junction. Thought I was following the Cranberry 50. Turns out it was the 6 Mile Creek trail, which does connect back to the Cranberry Lake 50, but it bypasses Olmsted Pond. And I got to the end, which is an extra 0.7, only to realize my mistake. So after a minute of thinking, do I just continue on, or do I circle back to make sure that I complete the full Cranberry Lake 50? I decided to turn back, so now I'm backtracking another 0.7 back in the other direction. So this will be quite a bit of a disappointment. And I get to see this trail again. It wasn't bad. Had some quick spots in it, but really not all that thrilled about having to do an extra 1.5 miles. I'm really curious to see what that intersection looks like. If it was really obvious and I just made a bonehead move, or if it was just poorly labeled. Time will tell. All right, so here's the deal. I came from this way, from Chair Rock Flow. Come through the sign here. Come on down here to this, what apparently is an intersection, but I didn't realize that. See this nice arrow on the tree. No other signage, so I just continued down it. That trail is not the Cranberry Lake 50, that is the 6 Mile Creek cutoff, as I have found out the hard way. Now that I have backtracked from that way back to this intersection, I now see way up here on this tiny little tree, a tiny little arrow. There are no other signs saying that this is the way to go for the full Cranberry Lake 50. So I don't feel so bad for missing it, but I'm still pretty irritated that I missed it. Well, learn from my mistakes and go this way. All right, well, I have now just finished the actual Olmsted Pond loop, or almost finished it. I'm getting close. Coming up this slippery log bridge, which feels not that sturdy. And gotta be honest with you, Olmsted Pond straight up sucks. It is barely even a trail for most of it. It is wet and muddy around flooded beaver areas, which I was expecting later in the day, but just not over here. But it is barely a trail. I found myself bushwhacking, looking for spots between what is really kind of one level up from a herd path. There are few and far between trail markers on the trees, and they have gone through and tried to put some additional little blue marker flags in the ground, but they are shorter than ankle height, and here in the fall they get covered up with the leaves and they're not very visible, and it is just awful. It's pretty clear that this trail, actually this is the most trail like it's looked the whole time, is way less used than that 6 Mile Creek cutoff trail. It really makes me wonder how many people actually come through Olmsted the correct way, and how many people who have quote unquote completed the Cranberry Lake 50 have not actually done the full loop, including Olmsted. So that's kind of irritating. I mean, I guess trying to be objective about it, if I hadn't mistakenly taken the 6 Mile Creek trail and had to backtrack, I might not be quite as upset about it. But seeing how much nicer the other trail is, how many people likely don't take the Olmsted trail, and just how unenjoyable it was pretty obvious that that was a low point of the day so far. But I'm going to try and get past that, literally and figuratively, and keep chugging the miles along. I think this is going to add 1.5 miles to my day. And I think that means that I was on the fence about doing some of the little extra bonus point sections like Cat Mountain and High Rock and the waterfalls. But if I've had to tack an extra 1.5 miles on already, I'm feeling like it's pretty certain I'm not going to add those other guys on, which is a bummer. Would have been nice for some bonus points, but I feel like this is deserving of a bonus point. I think honestly it's even more mileage if I had done all 3 of the others anyway, but not official. Well, here we go. We're starting to go up. Hopefully it's a little drier. Well, we're cruising along. This is a nice little section. Lots of nice colors. Sometimes it's pine, sometimes it's hardwoods. But we're along this tiny little ridge, which I didn't really anticipate, but it's pretty nice. I can kind of see Cat Mountain in the distance through the trees. Looks like there's some colorful leaves on it still, but it looks like a lot of leaves have gotten blown off, especially with last night's and this morning's strong winds. All right, making up some time. Mile 26.5. If you subtract that extra 1.5 miles from backtracking around Olmsted, it makes this 25 miles in the official halfway point. All right, mile 27, I think, and here's the junction to Cat Mountain, which, yeah, sadly, I'm not gonna do. Already got those extra miles in, and still got a shit ton of miles to go. So we're just gonna keep chugging along, trying to find our way through the leaves. This spot isn't so bad, but every now and then it gets pretty darn difficult to see where the trail goes through all these leaves. But it is beautiful, that's for sure. Nice brisk wind. Feels good at times. Feels chilly at times. Next stop, Glasby Pond, I believe. Should be good for a quick little view. And then we start making our way to the flooded beaver sections. And then to Wanakina. Whew. Just keep running, just keep running, just keep running. Just keep running. Are we there yet? Nope, not even close. 30 miles in. 20 plus to go. Just about 10 to Wanakina though, I think. Just keep running. Just keep running. All right. We have made it to the Wanakina primitive corridor. 8.5 to go to Wanakina. I have maintained a bit of running, but do find myself slowing a bit. Usually, when I'm at home doing my daily runs, I'm out usually running like 7:15, 7:30 minute paces. On trail, I might hit a couple short sections at 8-minute miles, but usually it's 10 to 12 minute pace. Not super long-lived. Obviously, the first 15 miles this morning in the dark I didn't run. I try to run some of the uphills, but usually that's just a fast walk. Most of the running is stop and go, and happens mostly on the downhills and the flats. Try to let my momentum carry me on the downhills and just run when it feels right. Do find myself slowing a little bit. We are, I think, 32 and a half or so miles in, so I guess that kind of makes sense, right? Well, so far, the primitive corridor here is nice and dry and beautiful hardwood forest. Love trails with these pine droppings on the trail, so beautiful. But I know that sooner or later, probably sooner, it's going to switch from dry to wet, and I'm going to be wading through some water. Quite a bit of it, as I understand. Well, we'll see. Well, that didn't take long. We are definitely in the wet area. Already gone over a couple bridges. Plenty of beaver activity already. And I've only been going through here for a couple of minutes. So it seems like it's bound to be wet and fun, miserable. I don't know. We'll see. Well, here we are. Hopefully, I can navigate this without falling in. But this is what I've been dealing with for the last little bit. It is intermittent. So far, it hasn't been as bad as I expected it to be. But we're literally just teetering on the edge of deep water. It actually does look pretty deep down there. And just mud. But now we're back to a little dry section. Boo beavers. I gotta say, this primitive corridor in between the beaver dam sections, which are rather intermittent so far, it's really beautiful. Nice and flat, wide. The sun's out. It's just a beautiful day. I've been forcing myself to eat pretty much all day. I really haven't felt hungry, but I've been forcing myself to eat. Just finished a salt potato. Not so bad. I just actually realized that I wasn't necessarily going for it, but today is a very Irish vibe with the salt potatoes, and I'm wearing my Syracuse Shamrock Run shirt. Feeling okay. Definitely tired. Knees are feeling it. But I think I got about 4 miles to go until Wanakina. And there I will quickly resupply water and beverages. And like I said, I haven't eaten much, so I don't need to resupply food. I might even drop some food there. And I'd love to take a rest, but I definitely want to keep moving. It is beautiful out here. All right, we have reached almost the end of the trail, the primitive corridor. 0.7 to go to Wanakina, and we have reached the point of the ridiculous beaver dam that you need to wade through. So here it is. This is, well, I mean, the cold water feels pretty refreshing on my feet, but it was obviously not the most ideal situation. And look at that, there's a drainage swale right there, and it's doing nothing. Alright, we are pretty deep here. It's up and down, but fortunately we're only 0.7 or so from Wanakina, where I've got dry shoes. I got dry socks in the pack, but we'll swap them out there, and then it's a lovely 11 miles back to the car, and whew, I am feeling it. I mean, it's pretty out here, but this is kind of crazy. Oh, that was up to my knees. It's not the best smelling either. The end is in sight of this thing. And that was that. I think. I don't know if there's more. Yeah, there's a little more. All right, back to the grind. All right, we have made it to the gate in Wanakina. I think I hear some music. Must be some kind of a party going on. It's gonna be a little tempting to stick around and relax, but I really just want to keep pushing on so I can finish before dark. Here we go, walking into Wanakina. Beautiful in town here. All right, Well, we made it in and out of Wanakina. I was hoping to stop for just 15 minutes and make all my swaps, but it took about 25. Feet are feeling much better and feel a little refreshed. On my way to the ranger school on the road for I think about 2 miles, and then back into the woods for another 7 for a final 2-mile-ish road walk after the boat launch. Here's to the end in sight. Whew. Just finished crossing the river at the boat launch in Cranberry Lake. Now it's time for a roughly 2-mile road walk, a run back to the car. I am beat and ready to be done. And we did it. We are here for the end. I mustered that last little bit of energy to finish strong. Oh man, there's never been a sweeter sight than seeing this trailhead right here. Oh my goodness. That is fantastic. 53-ish miles later, and here we are. So that's what it looks like in the daylight. Go figure.